with those who are Christian friends, you know, the Bible will be the sort of the starting point and grid of reference for them, which is why I use the Bible still a lot in teaching, although I don't use a lot in my personal walk with God. But it is a starting point for a lot of people. Now, I understand well, where's that in the Bible? Because that's the evangelical perspective. The reality is a lot of stuff is in there, just framed in ways which they probably wouldn't overtly see clearly. But, you know, energy healing, well, someone touched the hem of Jesus' garment and power went out from him. Well, hey, he had an energy field around him. Well, you know, and he knew power went from him. Well, hey, come on. You know, it's there, but they would have never really been shown that. So you just got to point it out to them in a loving way. Not trying to win an argument, but find some common ground and look to see that common ground a place to discuss rather than to argue or prove a point or debate. But hey, what do you think about this? And actually, here's some things, you know, healing in the Bible. Here are the words that mean healing. And one of them was this and that. And look at all the different ways that Jesus healed. And hey, it's okay, you know. And those that are on the journey, then they will find that their spirit starts to resonate with what you're saying. Those who are still not really willing to be on the journey, they'll probably struggle with what you're saying until they're on the journey, and then they'll remember what you said and they'll probably resonate with it. We can prepare the ground for our friends by legislating for their eyes to be open, for their hearts to be open, for angels to visit them in dreams, for them to have visions, which are, you know, visitations that God reveals stuff to them. And we can prepare that. We can, you know, drop love bombs on them and all sorts of stuff, you know, if we love them. But it's got to be motivated out of love and not just, hey, well, hey, I'm going to get a few of these Christians and I'm going to sort them out. You know, because ultimately God loves, they're all his children, you know, whether they're Christians, not Christians yet, or whatever, they're all his children and he loves all of them the same and has got a destiny for everyone to fulfill. So let's try and help people discover that, you know. And there'll be those who get a well done, good and faithful servant, and they never really even knew what they were doing, but they were motivated by the love of God and inspired by God. And yet they never really would say, well, I had this conversion experience, but actually they're more representing the nature of God than those who say, well, I had this conversion experience because I did this and prayed this prayer and did that. And ultimately they will find it so much easier to connect to God because they already relate to his love and frequency, you know. And we just want to get them to sign up to the dotted line of Christianity. I don't want them to be sucked into a religious system. I too would not class myself as a Christian from a religious standpoint. Would I love to be seen as a little Christ? Yeah, absolutely. As a job, as a description of how I live, but not as a religious thing of I'm part of this group who call themselves Christians, because actually most of it doesn't represent Christ very well at all. So I'd much rather be, yeah, a follower of God, of Jesus, whatever, but certainly not a follower of religion, whatever name you want to put on it, but relationship. So yeah, I can understand why you're connecting, and why some of the Christian friends, you know, react that way. But you know, I do a lot of legislation for people. I mean, even this week, you know, God has really tasked me to engage with the religious institutions and really begin to start legislating for those who are enslaved within those systems to come out of slavery. You know, and actually I went and engaged with John Newton this morning in heaven as a cloud of witnesses and solicited his help to get me a whole lot of cloud of witnesses who have testimonies of coming out of this type of stuff, because he came out of being a slaver and he wrote, you know, Amazing Grace, you know. And I want people to actually start writing Limitless Grace, you know, and begin to have testimonies of limitless grace. And some of those testimonies will be from people who the Christian community do not believe worthy because of their terrible lifestyles. And yet God's limitless grace will just overwhelm. So I'm going to go and engage some of those with testimonies of, limitless grace, of those who believers wouldn't even imagine are in the realms of heaven and the cloud of witnesses, because they would not ever deem them worthy. But I've asked John Newton to go and find me a whole load of them. And then I'm going to send them out to go and visit Christians and tell them the amazing stories of limitless grace